Today I will be reading something I wrote a year ago, and it's about midlife crisis. Now, I haven't read my own text in over a year, so now I will read it and I will react to my 1 year past self to see if I still hold up and believe and agree with the things I wrote here, or if my opinions have changed drastically, because it may have just been a year, but a lot of things can change just within a year. I'm 22 right now, but I was 21 when I wrote this, so this is why the title is A 21-year-old's Perspective on the Midlife Crisis. So here's the text. Once I heard that you are typically unhappy when you are a teenager, and that you are typically happy in your 20s and unhappy again when you are 44 years old and happy again when you are 60 plus. During that time, I used to be an unhappy teenager, and I thought I knew the reason why happiness and unhappiness was the way it was during certain ages. I believed that in your 20s, it turns out you are able to do more things than you thought you could do, and that is what makes you happy. And I myself felt like a 44-year-old. I was weighted down by a huge burden that made me unhappy. But deep inside, amongst all this burden, I was light as a feather. I was actually happy. I experienced midlife crisis, or at least that's what I thought I did. When I would turn 60, I would reflect over my life and I would say, I have lived a good life, and that would make me happy again. What I embarrassingly enough did not understand was that all those philosophies were far from the truth. When I went to elementary school, there were two things I was looking forward to. To finish elementary school so that I finally could have freedom, and to get a girlfriend. One beautiful day, I finished elementary school. But no, I did not get any freedom, because afterwards there was high school. And to make matters worse, I still had no girlfriend. When I went to high school, I therefore had slightly different things to look forward to. To graduate high school so that I finally could have freedom, and to get a girlfriend. So, another beautiful day, I graduated. Except I did not have that freedom I was waiting for, because after high school was college, and worst of all, I still had no girlfriend. So when I went to college, I had slightly different things to look forward to. To graduate college so that I finally would have freedom, and to get a girlfriend. But deep inside, I knew for sure that sought after freedom was far from reach. It was already when I commuted to my high school that I realized that I'm gonna have to commute like this every day to a 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life until I retire. And I realized that the true freedom would come when I would be around 65 years old and would retire. But then I would probably be way too old, sick, and weak to be able to actually enjoy the freedom, and I would die soon. That's when I realized that it was no longer worth waiting for that freedom, and thus I had only one thing to look forward to, and that was getting a girlfriend. That's what I was living for. That's what I was longing for. Until one day, a day that actually was not beautiful at all, but it was still an interesting moment in my life. One day, which would turn my world upside down, or maybe just 90 degrees or something, but still, it was a day when I was in a car in the middle of a dark autumn evening. The car crossed Stockholm's metropolitan city just like the Batmobile in Gotham City. The atmosphere was beautiful. I sat there like a king, comfortable in the warm seat, transported by a man in his maybe 30 or 40 rotations around the sun. The man was a driver that I knew and trusted at that time, and he drove into nowhere. In the middle of this atmospheric mood, the driver started talking in the phone, and I just sat there completely quiet and I eavesdropped. It seems like he spoke with a young woman that just had got a job. I sighed quietly because I knew that now she would be stuck in a 9-to-5 job until she retires. The driver and the woman had a pleasant conversation, and the woman seemed to be surprisingly happy over the fact that she got that job. She seemed to have gotten the dream job. I sighed quietly again, but this time it was a classical sigh of relief. Even though she would now be stuck to a generic boss for like 40 years from now on, it seemed like she enjoyed it. And as they say, a job is not a job if you enjoy it. I remember sitting there and thinking, now she just needs to get a girlfriend, or maybe boyfriend. That's when her life would be perfect. I was happy for her. I looked forward towards her getting that boyfriend. But about 30 seconds later, still in the middle of the phone call, I heard the driver utter a thought-provoking line. "Congratulations! What will be the name of the child?" And then I remember that I immediately thought, so not only has she already got herself a boyfriend, she even managed to have sex with him, be pregnant, and probably even marry him during that whole process. And suddenly I was no longer happy for her. I felt sorry for her now. Freedom and romance were the two things I always looked forward to. And now I just sat there and I pictured myself that I was her and that I now had freedom and romance. During my whole life, I thought that I live for one specific thing to happen. But when that thing finally happens, I realized that you instead react, okay, what should I do now? Whole my life I've been waiting for this moment to happen, and now that it happened, what do I do now? What should I look forward to from here on? And then I realized her life would go in a downward spiral. She would no longer be able to party because she would have to take care of children. She would have to buy more food, prepare the clothes and food and everything for the kids, and she would not be able to have as much time for herself with her romantic partner. So eventually I found out that that woman probably was the driver's wife. And that made me feel sorry even for the driver. That's when I understood how formulaic life is for almost every person. You are happy as a baby. You get to play with a lot of toys and you get to play in kindergarten. But then you have to wake up early in the morning every day to go to school and to then go to high school and college, and you hate that. And then you have to wake up early every morning to go to your job, and you hate it. Eventually, sometime you get married and you have sex, and it's great. But then when you lay there in bed, unbothered, in the dark bedroom, and you explore the anatomy of a fantastic person you just married and you're now gonna create family with, that's unfortunately the highlight of your happiness. And then you never get that happiness again, because from there on you have to work hard every single day so that the child can have food on the table, and you have to endure children that cry and scream every now and then you have to endure a bunch of illnesses that your body probably will catch as you age. And you are also not as attracted to your romantic partner as you once were. But now it's just arguing with your partner and all that, and complaining that you suffer from erectile dysfunction and no longer can have sex because of that. So life is just as meaningless and cliche for almost everybody, and that's not even the worst part. To think that everyone is gonna have that greatness at least once in their life was something you thought for many decades ago when you were still a virgin incel. But once you collect some experience in your life, you realize there are multiple tiers to sex. There is that higher tier where you react, yes, harder, but there is also that lower tier where you simply react, okay, this is happening, I guess. And there are a lot of people out there that only marry so that they can have kids, and they only marry for the sake of marrying. Those people are intimate with each other only so that they can spread their DNA. Those people probably do not experience that higher level of sex, which implies that those people never experience true happiness in life. Sure, they can be happy sometimes, but that happiness is short-lived and seemingly meaningless, because everything is meaningless. Life is meaningless. My future life would be just as meaningless and just as unoriginal as everyone else's life. For example, everyone would tell me that there is something special about getting married and creating a family. But when everyone gets married and everyone eventually creates a family, it's not that special anymore. I felt like a droplet in the middle of a big sea. I felt insignificant. I felt unimportant. I felt meaningless. I felt lost. Until one day. Yes, there are many days here to keep track of, but this day is special, I promise. I got enlightened and blessed. No, not by God. At least not directly. Maybe indirectly. But I got enlightened by influencers such as the Tate brothers and Hamza Ahmed. They made me realize that we all live in a matrix, kind of like Keanu Reeves in the Matrix movies. It is a matrix where those who are trapped within it, they get brainwashed with the belief that it is normal to never experience true happiness in life, and that the point of living is living a boring and repetitive life. Meanwhile, the elite that controls this matrix, they live in affluence thanks to their exploiting of those people who are trapped in the matrix. It is a rigged system that makes the poor people poorer and the rich richer. And that's when I realized that it doesn't have to be that way. I don't have to live a boring and cookie cutter life. I can choose exactly what I want to do with my life. And I am prepared to work effectively to achieve that goal. During the last year, I have, for example, tried starting a business, I wrote a book, and I had a YouTube channel. The company failed, the book has still not been sold, and the YouTube channel, even though it got 1,000 subscribers, it was not accepted for monetization apparently because there was a lot of reused content or something. But guess what? I have still not given up. Instead, I am thankful for the fact that I managed to set my foot and get some experience. Now that I have learned from my mistakes, I will change my plans a little bit. I believe that it is good to fail, because that means that you at least have tried. If you get rejected by your crush, that means you were at least brave enough to talk with your crush about your desires. Congratulations! No, the real losers are those who never try because they are afraid of failing. Those are the people that I feel sorry for. You get to choose yourself how you want to live your life. If you really want to live yourself and how you want to relate to the Matrix. Maybe you want to be stuck in the Matrix for the rest of your life, working hard in a monotone work and being in a monotone marriage makes some people happy, and there is nothing wrong with living that kind of life. But other people are not happy with that kind of life. They have a fire burning inside of them. They have ambitions to constantly improve in life and to constantly evolve and to live a life that always changes for the better. You don't have to live inside the Matrix. You can choose to break from the Matrix and become free. Something that is known as escaping the Matrix. If you become a freelancer or you start an online business, that can be a way to achieve financial freedom. And then you don't have to commute every morning to the same office just so that your family can afford the next meal. That's when you succeeded in escaping the Matrix. And here I mention a person, a Swedish person that managed to escape the Matrix. But anyways, I will continue. And once you manage to break out from the Matrix, you can choose to create your own matrices, which will compete against the big Matrix. And you can convince prisoners towards the big Matrix to convert and become prisoners of your Matrix instead, by believing that your Matrix is better. This is exactly what Andrew Tate did with his two well-known matrices, Hustlers University and The War Room. That's basically what Oskar Schindler did with prisoners in a concentration camp, I believe. That means you can choose almost freely what you want to do with your life and how you want to live your life. However, you have to work to get it. For example, you have to become an entrepreneur or a freelancer, and I personally see nothing wrong with working a 9-to-5 job for a while, just so that you can invest enough money that you will then use for starting your own business or something similar, so that then you can achieve that after-sought freedom. And I realized that the midlife crisis is a choice. It is not a necessary path in life that everyone has to experience, but rather the only ones who experience that are those that are being brainwashed into believing that their life would be fulfilled by a trivial job, a trivial marriage, and trivial kids. And when they then are in their 40s and 50s, then they think suddenly, wait a second, I have an engineering job that gives me a good salary, and there is a very beautiful woman here, and I am the lucky one who gets to be married with this very beautiful woman that I have also slept with, and a lot, and I created 7 kids together with her. And even despite all that, I don't feel like my life is completely fulfilled. The good times are never coming back, at least not for those who choose to be slaves to society. I, on the other hand, I want the good times to always be present. And for me, that gets achieved with a life where I get to discover myself, and in a life where I get to have an identity. Having a normal job, a normal marriage, and a normal family does not make you anything more than a normal person. You have no identity. You are a droplet in the middle of the big sea, known as the Matrix or society. You are nothing more than a background character or an NPC. You have no personality that stands out. When you die, you will eventually be forgotten, together with all the other NPCs that die in society. Some people want to live that kind of life. So be it. But I don't enjoy that. I want to have an identity. I want to be an inspiration. I want to be a beacon. I want to keep living after death. And even if I don't get to do that, I want to still live in form of inspiration for the coming generation. That's enough for me. Hamza Ahmed and the Tate brothers, no matter whether you love them or hate them, you cannot deny that those people have inspired many young men today. And after their deaths, many young men from the next generation will remember them as role models that have inspired them into breaking free from being a slave to society and to be free. I don't believe I am better than others. I just want to live an interesting life. The meaning of life is to live an interesting life. A life filled with personality, passion, and also for me, entertainment. But a life doesn't get to be interesting if it looks just like it looks for 99% of other people in society. And when you realize that you have lived a boring life during half of your life, and then you suddenly decide that you want to live a more fun life, well, that's where the midlife crisis can kick in. Then you cheat on your wife or husband, and you go around and party, and you try to hit up people that are 30 years younger than you, and you don't think at all about the age difference between you two, but they do that. And then you drink until you get drunk, and you do drugs until you get high as a house, and you live in the moment. But what you don't realize is that your body is no longer as invincible as it used to be, and before you know it, you get in the emergency room. And this is something you risk with the midlife crisis. Luckily, it is an option to suffer from the midlife crisis. One day, I heard you are typically unhappy when you are a teenager, you are typically happy in your 20s, unhappy again when you are 44 years old, and happy again when you are 60 plus. Now I know the truth. The 20s is the honeymoon year. That is the year you are horny and you have a lot of sex. That is the year you get married. That is sometimes also the year you become a parent. You are also a fresh worker and you just got a job you enjoy doing. And that's when you lay unbothered in the dark bedroom and you explore the anatomy of a fantastic person you just married and the person you are now gonna create a family with. Life is amazing. You get happy, but then it goes downhill The job you once enjoyed starts getting monotone. Your lust wanes off, which leads to a decreased sex life. And yeah, now you got to take care of the kids. And you no longer experience that happiness again until you retire and you are finally free. But it doesn't have to be that way. To only be happy during special moments in life is a choice. And I choose to be happy all the time. And yeah, I agree with most of the text. I am someone who wants to basically be free, travel around the world and work from home and all of that. And this is kind of why I make those kinds of videos, because this is something I enjoy doing. Last year I kind of did a lot of trial and error. I tried to hop on the drop shipping and coding trains just so that I could get money, but it failed. And it was also a year where I was like a fan of the Tate brothers and all of that. But now I realized that if you truly want to escape the matrix, you need to be independent. You need to become your own matrix. But all of those are all my own philosophies.